Hello and welcome back to the Creative Odyssey podcast. And today my guest is Max Senges, live here. And how are you, Max?
I'm really good. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time and coming on the show. Let's jump right in. Who are you in your own words? How would you describe yourself?
Now, that's, of course, a very difficult question that one can answer in a sentence or a lifetime. And it is a fluid question. So, maybe to answer most directly related to what you're asking, I'm a professor at the University of the Arts, where I learn with my students who they are and who they want to become. So the process of becoming and developing your own potential is really at the heart of what I do. Besides being a professor, I also lead a small research and transfer institute at the University of the Arts called IEB. And I'm the director of law as code at the Rule Mapping Group, where I promote open standards and open ecosystems for digital law.
That sounds both very broad in a sense, but very to the point. And I always like to ask the question of, because it interests me how they see themselves in a way of identity. And it is really a fluid question and really dependent on the context. So I like how you put it as a disclaimer before answering. But how did you get there in the first place? So this is a very cool role, and I think this is a very interesting course to be in. But you didn't originally started in the arts. So how did you get there?
So I started, I guess, with the combination of philosophy and technology. That's what interested me from the very beginning. When I was 17, I spent a year in Canada and I saw how the Netscape browser came out. It was 1995. And that was really the moment when the World Wide Web was accessible to everybody. And that really inspired me because I thought everybody's going to have a voice to share and contribute, and everybody's going to have access to all the information and the training materials, the learning materials. So that absolutely fascinated me. And that's why I studied computer science and business after school, and thought that developing open educational resources, developing companies that allow learning would be the most rewarding professional path. So I did that, and really that's what I still do. I love to take the potential that is in different technologies to unleash the potential that is within people. Somewhat close to your TED talk and your perspective on artificial intelligence, where you're saying it should augment us. That is something that we certainly share.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. And I definitely agree on the point that I think technology and humanity are not separate. It's always, I think it's one of the most human thing to constantly find and develop technology as a broad term. Any kind of technology to do something better, faster, more comfortable, to learn more, share more. Even language itself is a technology, if you want to put it that way. So really something about that. And so what is it really about technology and philosophy that got you so intrigued as a combination of disciplines?
Well, I think the Greeks made a distinction between episteme and techne, and that actually describes what you just went into. That is, techne is how to get things done. It's any kind of technology as a technique or a method to actually do something, to produce craft, to produce meaningful things. And then episteme is insight. It's generating an understanding and wisdom in the end. And I think those are the two big poles, if you want, the two big attractors that interest me, and that indeed I believe are the engine for most people to develop their skills. And I certainly like to dabble in both areas. Generating insight and philosophical discussions and questions about reason and where to take things, why to do things, And then on the other hand, look at technology as the means to get there, as a tool, as a method to reach the goal.
What would you say is the role of morals, or rather said ethics, when it comes to technology?
So it's, of course, very, very deeply ingrained in everything we do, right? We can discuss, and all perspectives are okay to review and argue and debate. That's the whole idea of freedom of expression and of doing thought experiments. But when it comes to actually doing things, that's when the consequences have to be considered. And so, in a way, ethics are what stands between the two realms that I discussed, episteme and techne, because it asks the question, is it okay to actually do something, to get into a technology and a practice to create it? So, from my point of view, the most important conversations on the episteme side is, where do we want to take things? And that's why I have engaged in a variety of projects to first empower individuals to get out of what Kant called the self-incurred tutelage, die selbstverschuldete Unmündigkeit in German, and become responsible for their own activities. And that, of course, being responsible means being ethically responsible, being responsible in terms of rules. And then out of that understanding of responsibility and potential, you can start to use technology for the means and the desirable futures that you want to create.
So it's really more about what world we want to live in, and not about what is the most possible, what is the fastest, the biggest impact we can have on the technology side, only for the sake of evolution. So it really is more about the reason we want to do it. And personally, I think that the technology, if we want to say so, is just an amplifier for what a man or what humans generally can do. So everything that could be wrong, any action that could be despisable, could be evil, can only be amplified with technology. And on the other hand, everything we want to do good can also be amplified. So it's really just a way to scale. And I think this is where the moral dilemma, as the impact to do something gets much bigger, and even let let us just be at a single sentence that can be said to another person and can negatively impact their life, or it could be spread to the whole world and can change in ways we cannot even predict it can. So this is the way I see technology, is really a magnifying glass, or I don't know if there's any better analogy for this, but it makes things bigger. If we want to do good things or bad things, it just amplifies them.
Yeah, and of course, it's important to remind ourselves that the technology itself is neither good nor bad nor neutral. It always depends on how it is used in a particular context, right? You can
Yeah.
do very good things and very bad things with a knife, with even weapons you can use to defend or to be the aggressor. So yes, magnifying glass, and importantly, the technology itself doesn't contain the use case. Now, I had a very intense conversation with colleagues the other day whether modern AI, as we know it, provided by big American companies mostly, whether that in itself is then not neutral anymore, because the setup and how the algorithms are trained, etc., already contain a negative scenario. And I don't think so, actually. I think, of course, there is a preset that is not ideal or even problematic, but you can still use the technology to create something on the positive side and ethically
Yeah.
meaningful and forwarding. It's just that there is a bias in how it is originally positioned.
Yeah. And this is where awareness comes into place. We need to have the awareness that maybe just the initial set of data or the way it is initially interpreted can be biased, and we need to just make sure if that whatever is the output. And most likely, if we are talking about AI, I think about LLMs being the use case most often. If we were to generate a text and we can just make sure if this is really something neutral, that would be something we are rooting for, that we can stand behind it and be aware of the bias of, I don't know, the examples that could be in a scenario that it just be male, white examples of whatever you're researching. So it's just reflecting one specific subset of ideas or people and are not putting the diversity into place as an example. And this could be even worse if data is just plain wrong and not just filtered in another favorable way for someone, but it's really the awareness. And it comes increasingly more difficult because everything seems to be right and to be plausible, and every text can seem so thoughtful even if there's nothing behind it.
Yes, I agree. And even going a bit further, I think what we need to consider is how our personal backgrounds are reflected in the actions that we take when we use AI. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
two important elements I think that need to be stressed here are number one, when you are the person interacting with the AI, you can never make the AI responsible for the outcome. It's always your responsibility. If you ask it to draft an email or a report, you are the author of that report. And for better or worse, I think it's totally okay to take credit for what you have curated
Yeah.
or collaboratively develop, but you are also 100% responsible for all errors that are in there. If you haven't checked the reference, if there is a phrase that is off-putting to someone, etc., then that's also fully your responsibility. And the other aspect that I really, really think is important is transparency in terms of understanding where, what element had been generated. So at Rule Mapping, the company that I work with, we are translating legal norms and regulations into decision maps, into decision flows. And importantly, they follow the legal logic of subsumption. So there is always one question that's followed by another, and you're going deeper into the legal arguments. Now, with our method, there is AI that is used in very specific moments, but these are micro decisions. So the smaller you can make the context and the clearer you can make the context where an AI is supporting to take a decision, and the better you can document that, the more useful and also morally admittable it is to work with artificial intelligence.
Yeah. And also in these cases, these are more or less repeatable cases where you have more or less a specific scenario which consists of different patterns that require different legal actions or decisions. So this is like really mapping, where you can map one thing into another. And this is one of the biggest, I think, advantages of large language models, that you can really use the advantage of a computer, which is computing and like really doing the maths of language, basically. And we as humans are capable to overlook that and use that in a way that is beneficial. As a generator, that's one thing I wanted to say. We should treat it as a generator, as in the factory. So there is someone like the machinist who is operating the machine and is still responsible for the output, even if he's not producing it itself with himself with his own hands. He's still the person in charge to control the machine's output. So this is maybe a way we can treat like chatbots or something like that better.
Yeah. And in a slightly different picture, I think rather than seeing them as something where you outsource an activity, you're augmenting yourself. So
Yeah.
because of the mental faculties of that technology, it is actually an extension of yourself.
Yeah.
There has a long tradition in this field where you had people like McCarthy on one side of the Stanford campus thinking about automating human work and building robots that can do work independently, while Doug Engelbart on the other side of the campus was showing the mouse and thinking around using computers to amplify our minds and to in the end extend what we can do as humans. I think that's, in the end, both are creating technology that does tasks that before only humans can do, but
Mm.
one in a thought of replacing and the other in the form of augmenting. And I think it's pretty clear what's more attractive as a picture and as a development vision. And those development visions really, really matter. Pictures matter. Surfing the web created a sort of lightweight and fun picture for using the internet, right? Without
Yeah.
the idea of surfing, it might have been much more like looking up something in a dictionary or in a catalog. And these narratives about technology and about the future are super important. That's why we just recently published a piece where the ground axiom is that everybody can use AI to develop their full potential. So we are
Yeah.
taking a positive view from, let's say, Martin Seligman has a book in psychology about flourishing. How do you
Mm.
use your positive character strength and build out those strengths rather than trying to become someone who you're not or learning something that is not deeply connected with you as a person. So understand who you are in that sense. Thanks for the opening the conversation in that way, right? Understanding who you are, where your strengths are, and then using AI to build that out. In the end, everybody could get up in the morning and say, I would like to learn about quantum physics, or I would like to learn Chinese, and have an excellent artificial intelligence tutor who is very competent and very much available 24/7 to learn with. And so whatever you want to learn, consider AI as a learning partner. And I think that gets you again into a mode where we are using it to expand and augment ourselves rather than thinking of the technology as something that can replace most humans.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really prefer this kind of vision. I think this is the only way to be slightly optimistic, but in a not in a naive way, but in a responsible way. So I would put it that I'm sure that we can create a better future, but I'm also part of responsible for doing so. So I'm using the technology, I'm making sure it's used right, and I'm not dependent on others. And to the
And
part of yeah,
if I may, I watched your TED talk and you used the Disney description of the dreamer, the critic, and the realist. And
yeah,
I think the image of the future is something that all three of them share. And that's why it's so important as in scientific speech, you say it's a research object, let's say, the future as a research object. And that's something
yeah,
that we can negotiate. That's something that we can talk about. Do we want to go in that future, or do we want to develop more into that future? And then those narratives have a pull to, ideally, create an expectation effect where it becomes more likely that we're going in that direction. And that's exactly
yeah.
what we tried to do. Maybe we can share in the show notes a compendium for the alchemy of the next society, of the next societal operating system using AI. And
Mm.
given that AI is a general purpose technology, it's not just in the area of work. It's actually, I think, more fundamental in the area of education and learning, where every learner, each one of us can and should and maybe must develop a different understanding on how and what they want to learn. And then, of course, education and economy are only possible within a societal governance structure. So how we use AI to support and facilitate good democratic practices is the third aspect that we discuss in the paper. And our thought is to make it more like a Wikipedia for solutions where, we all collaborate and discuss different possibilities on very concrete templates and best practices. So, for example, for democracy, it might be how do I use AI to prepare for a difficult conversation with my Aunt Susie or the strange neighbor over there, where I think they're falling prey to populist propaganda and are losing their belief and support in democracy. That would be a very hands-on. How do I make a difference in my family, in my community? How do I set up a community festivity, a Straßenfest, something like that, where people get together and there is democratic exchange? So, I think on the one hand, it's talking about the future in a way that is attractive. And in the other, it's very concrete and hands-on. How do we help each other? How do we empower each other to make it possible and use technology for that?
I think this really combines what I was just saying, that we can hope for a better future, or we can be sure there's a better future because we are part of building it. And I really like this approach. And to the point you were making before of, I would say, democratization of education, so that basically everybody has a widespread access to the whole knowledge that is there. Even if there are some flaws or some things might be just a bit bland, this is one of the, I would say, negative critics on AI being like slop and being everything is like the average of something. But this also has the advantage that it is still available for everyone. And this is, I would say, a better general output than just having some experts teaching some like specific students the best knowledge that is possible, or having pretty good knowledge, or I would say very good knowledge to like everyone. And not only that we can use AI to amplify our strengths, but what I've seen in myself a lot is that it can also, I would say, not diminish, but it can reduce our shortcomings or weaknesses, things that are just hindering ourselves. For me personally, it's math. I'm bad at calculating stuff. I lose I don't have the ability to overlook complex numbers. And this is part of just how my brain works. And I'm, for example, way better at languages and interpreting, and I would just say creative stuff. But the more dry it gets, I lose context and I lose the ability to overlook it. And this is where a large language models can help me understand. Like, for example, if I were to read a big legal text, I would completely lose the thread, but I can understand what the content, but not in the way it is put. And same with numbers. I just need a way to understand it better. And this is generally the idea that not only the knowledge is available, which was pretty much the standard of internet itself, knowledge was there, but it's really the combination of the knowledge that is there, and I would say the teacher, and the way it can modulate it in a way that we can understand it. So it can really precisely go into the stage you need to have it until you can understand it. So there's different baseline levels. If I were to learn quantum physics, I could start at elementary school level of trying to understand it, but it can quickly develop into much complex, and it can be every topic.
Following your picture, let me make 2 points. Number one is what you described, using the technology to deal with complexity and to reduce complexity. I think that's a very meaningful way of using it. That said, I think it's very important not to fall prey to two aspects that are happening in current technology. One is that it usually tries to be nice and doesn't give you a critical feedback. That is something that can absolutely be controlled. You can simply tell the AI to stop flattering you and really giving you critical feedback. And then it does a really good in saying, look, I think it's nice what you want to write in that email, but maybe consider X, Y, Z. So much more of a sparring partner and much more of someone who critically supports you in creating good quality. The other aspect I think that you described is people being a bit lazy about seeing the technology and what it can do for them, almost in the way of consuming the tech. So when you look at our piece at the compendium, what we see as the central initial point, it's self-efficacy or agency. Grew up in has a strong tendency to make things easy and to sell us things that we then consume in order to get a certain benefit. So we're trying to make it easier and easier and easier. And in fact, it is proven in pedagogy and learning theory that, if you simply ask and you get an answer, that's not the same a kind of insight and development than when you actually have to work hard and when you're at the edge of what you can do. It's called zone of proximal development. When you push yourself almost to the point where it is uncomfortable but still viable to do a task, you will learn most. If the task is too easy, you will not learn anything. And if the task is too complicated and you simply can't do it, then you're also not learning. So I think when we design and also design educational systems, but also design our own practice, the ground theme should be to animate your agency and to request and challenge your thinking so that it becomes more authentically you rather than you consuming something or just repeating something that you heard before.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really, really the zone of progress. And this is where I'm mostly in the stage where I feel like I'm close to a headache. When I really feel my brain is working, and this is a really strange feeling. This is like kind of too much to progress, but still I can do it, but not for a prolonged time. But it's not that I don't understand it. It's some weird observation how my body reacts to that. And the thing is, ideally, it should be able to be stopped at the place where it's just helping you. But I've seen myself kind of trying to do that, but at a certain stage of output I want to create, and it gets more than I'm concentrated to do currently, and I just then have it suggest what can be improved, and I read it, and then I decide, yeah, then just do it, then do it for me. And this is the stage where I see myself, and if this weren't be able to then just switch back to just completing the task for me and stopping at, no, you can do it, just try. And this is really the stage where I think it would be most beneficial for me, because I don't think this is very individual for me as a person. I think humanity in general likes shortcuts, and this is a shortcut basically. But if we do it too much, then we cannot make progress if we just do the shortcut and we never go the full route. Yeah, just a little observation.
Yeah, my good friend Howard Reingold researched a lot into human cooperation and collaboration. And there is a small school of thought, a group of researchers who are actually claiming that this is the human superpower. There is almost no animal where you can put a group of animals together in a room and they're just peaceful and possibly even collaborating, right? Most animals will engage in fighting and territorial clinch, and that's also a story that we tell ourselves, or that we have been told, that man is man's wolf, that we eat each other and that we are in competition. But there's very nice research. One I can recommend, Rutger Breckmann, Humankind, im Grunde gut auf Deutsch. It's a really nice account of how humans are indeed much more prone for cooperation and to do things together. And in that sense, if we create images of the future for our family, right, with your partner and how you want to live with your community, how you want to develop the neighborhood you're in or the village or whatever your local community is, that really helps to generate positive outcomes. And that's where we are really inviting everybody to join this next societal operating system as a movement, as a means to contribute, similar to Wikipedia, to these solutions. Right now, we have not officially launched the wiki, but maybe by the time our audience hears that, we will have, it will be at nexteconomy.net. And this is where also you and colleagues from the Hochschule Bremerhaven are very much invited to bring together a mix of academics, technologists, business people, and philosophers and artists to tell each other stories that where we would like to take it and develop the agency to do it.
Yeah, I really like this approach of having the viewpoint of different creative people or different people who want to create a future. I'm really seeing creativity as a broad term, very broad, and not just artistic, but any kind of building something preferably meaningful that really makes a contribution.
And that's really where the humans excel. About a week ago, we had invited professors, artists, and philosophers to the University of the Arts in Berlin to discuss desirable AI futures and creativity and imagination. And there is a consensus that it is really the original human specialty. What's the right English term? It's what remains when technology and AI can take care of what Hannah Arendt calls labor. So really the laborious everyday tasks of creating food, of creating everyday appliances. Then there is a second level that Hannah Arendt calls Schöpfung or creation, where the Homo faber, we are actually putting something together that lasts, a house or a piece of furniture, or right, we are creating something. And then the highest art is imagination and political beginnings. To start something new, to have an idea, to be political and talk to someone else on a podcast, on a public transportation, wherever the conversation happens. You're creating an idea and you're developing a dynamic towards it, and that ability is really central to the societies that we are hopefully going to have a few years' time.
Yeah, and I think we need to have these conversations to keep the spark, to keep the goodwill, to inspire each other to do so. This is why I think the conversation for me personally is a good medium to be in. But as you said, platforms can definitely scale much better. And if we can browse, we can make it accessible more. And the other thing made me very curious about at the Hochschule für Künste Berlin at what's the English name again? The English,
University of the Arts, Berlin.
yeah, University at Arts of the Arts in Berlin, and I'd like to visit some point. I really think this is something that interests me a lot, and I see there's like potential in like these multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, or transdisciplinary, whatever you want to call it, and the thought of combining the ideas of all people want to create something meaningful, to use technology in a creative and helpful way for humanity.
Well, then let me use the occasion to invite you and everybody who is interested to contribute to come to Berlin. We are meeting at Teufelsberg, which is a really fascinating space here in just outside of Berlin on the 4th of September. I think we'll start at around 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock and then continue with networking and hanging out in the space for a bit to exactly uh, you know collaborate and develop different initiatives. Whatever you want to contribute, you can use the time to find others, whether it's in transforming your business, transforming the organization you work in, transforming economics, or whether it's in transforming education or learning in the organizations that you're involved with, learning in the communities you're involved with, or as mentioned before, the democratic governance practices. Those are the three missions that we have started to work on.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for the invitation. And is there anything else you might want to recommend to read to get into any kind of specific book for the listener or for me personally? I'd like to get recommendations with a little bit of context. What would you say is something?
Well, the idea of building the next societal operating system is grounded in the law as code and rules as code approach that we develop here at Rule Mapping. And I think that's particularly interesting to get involved with, both for private citizens to see, what benefits this type of environment can provide for democratic practices, for both access to justice, but also to organize and to establish rules in the environments that people are already active in, as well as to understand how the state can and will use these technologies and to ensure that civil perspectives and private company perspectives are aligned when a system that is so fundamental, right? Our rules in the society really determine how we interact and how we collaborate or how we are separate from each other. So I really recommend to look into that methodology. There is a really good report by the OECD. It's called Cracking the Code. It's from 2020 already, but they're updating it right now. So it's a good piece to read now. And then in a year's time, there will be a much more updated version. But for now, I recommend Cracking the Code from the OECD.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm definitely open for another conversation and let's see or hear us next time.
Thank you, and looking forward to continue the exchange.